Up against time in a tornado, Barbara McFarland, Elaine Gilloise, and Brad and Emily Lancaster found themselves facing off against Mother Nature's fury. Tonight, I bring you part 3 of Surviving the Storm, sponsored by Abel Alleman Roofing. Winds of change are inevitable in our lives. Sometimes they gently steer us in new directions. And sometimes they come crashing down, changing everything we've ever known. Oklahoma averages 58 tornadoes per year. Every spring, we know it's going to happen somewhere.
We had the weather on, but sulfur never gets hit.
But we never believe it's going to happen here. To our family, our friends, our childhood homes.
My mom had called me, and I can hear the tornado actively hitting her house. And she's screaming, just screaming.
That's what happened late last April in Sulphur, Oklahoma. In just a few short minutes, a twister would change the course of Sulphur forever.
I wasn't afraid, but I was trying to survive, and I was against that tornado.
In a flash, everything we know can come crashing around us, leaving a wake of damage behind.
I took one step up, and next thing I knew, I felt something pull me, like somebody grabbed me on the waist, pulled me in the back. And I kind of thinking, I must be flying. It got to be, because I was holding from point A to point B. I don't know what happened. I ended up on the ground.
Be advised that storm coming out of Ardmore right now does have 100-mile-an-hour winds in it according to radar. Copy, thanks.
Emily Lancaster and her family had just moved from Ada into their Sulphur house in September of 2023.
It always comes our way, but we're usually in what we call a donut.
And on the other side of town, Barbara and Elaine, who is deaf, had just returned home to Sulphur from Purcell.
Normally, when we have a warning, we always had that time slot, 10 minutes or maybe 5 minutes.
But Mother Nature runs on her own time, and on this night, she would wait for no one.
I had actually fallen asleep, and my dad called me, and he was like, hey, it looks like this weather's ramping up.
It's going to be coming into Sulphur. If you're in Sulphur right now, you need to be inside your safe room, your safe spot.
Not even 5 seconds later, my dad texts me and says, get to me now. I have my whole family in this car, my whole life, and we hit the stoplight by Sooners, and the tornado sirens were finally on, but we could hear it. And it's like a train. And we could hear it coming. We immediately went down the road to the EMS station and got in the shelter there.
That's where her dad, Brad Lancaster, was working.
We knew that Sulphur was going to get impacted, especially when it got just north of Ardmore. We knew that we were in a bullseye.
Around 10 p.m. that night, Elaine Gilloise and Barbara McFarland received a call from their friend in South Sulphur.
He says, yeah, we're under warning now.
They decided to leave their home.
And then I turned to look, and whoa, and it's a foot part of the tornado.
Time was not on their side.
I ran to the car, and I told Barbara, change plan. When you go back in the house, hide in the tub.
Within seconds, the tornado hit them.
I found on that ground so hard, didn't feel nothing. And I was laying face down, and I says, oh Lord, I'm in this mess. I'm in this mess. Now, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
The tornado had thrown Elaine to the pavement outside the house. Barbara was in the car as the tornado arrived.
And you can feel the debris flying around my head and the car jumping up and down.
Once the tornado had passed, Barbara got out of the car as it began to pour.
I saw Elaine sitting there and wondering why she's sitting there. And I was just like, wondering what happened to my foot. So I threw my foot up, and it was just staying like this.
As the tornado moved through downtown Sulphur, Emily Lancaster was in the tornado shelter at the EMS station. She was on the phone with her mom as the tornado hit.
I couldn't calm her down. There was nothing I can do.
As calls for help came in, Emily's father, Brad, was prepared for the worst.
There was debris blocking every road and down power lines that were still hot and active, blocking every path in there. The entire downtown had pretty much been taken. We were counting on a high casualty count. Praise God, we only had one death. To me, that's still amazing at that time of day.
Brad began coordinating crews for search and rescue. Elaine and Barbara desperately hoped that someone would be able to reach them in time.
We kept yelling for help, and finally on the parking lot near our home, they stopped and saw us splashing. They carried me over to the truck.
Elaine arrived at the hospital where she received emergency treatment from her doctor.
That hospital was overwhelmed. I never see any of those places like that before. They were just overwhelmed.
Elaine was sent to OU Medical, where she underwent 2 surgeries on her heel and leg and 3 blood transfusions. As of April 2025, Elaine has received her prosthetic leg and is back up and walking. And Emily, like many others in Sulphur, is still picking up the pieces.
I still have nightmares from hearing it as I'm driving my whole life in my car across town, directly in its path. Hearing my mom scream on the phone. I still see my brother grabbing my face and saying Sulphur is gone. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard.